Woo! And I am okay. I'm going to finish responding to this because somebody was like accusing me of not having knowledge, but then proceeded to cite some lies. So I am going to Tiberius Cluvius Rufus, who has the last name of Rufus. I feel so bad for this person. Hi. I am currently responding to this person who accused me of not knowing my stuff. And then I'm also fact checking what I'm saying, just so I know that I am talking about the right things rather than just some made up stuff. Hi, Jane. Hi. How's everyone doing? Am I good? Yeah, you are. I really appreciate the work that you've done for my channel, Jane. You try to give people a heads up, but then when they continue, you know, being bad, you help keep them under control, which I appreciate. Someone said that the Roman source Tacitus, which proves the existence of Jesus and talks about the crucifixion of Jesus, is not good because he got his information from the Jews. But he got his information from Servilius, Nonius, and Tiberius. Now, this is the part that applies um, to Jesus, Cluvius Rufus and Fabius Rusticus. That's the part that they got his information from um, for Jesus. And then Vipstenus Messala. People will be mad when you discipline them, unfortunately. And it's not like we're being violent with the discipline. It's like, hey, we don't want this stuff with us. So, I am going to search up if these guys were Jews. Do, 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 do. I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see what I'm seeing. There we go. So you guys can see what I'm seeing. I'm trying to figure out if this guy was a Jew. I'm going to see what source Wikipedia has. It was a Roman consul, senator, governor. Let me just see what the source is. Okay. Rufus, funny name, was a Roman I forget the rest of it. Consul, senator, governor, and historian. According to the Dictionary of Greek and Roman Biography and Mythology. If I can type it right, I was spelling. So now I gotta figure out this other guy. This guy is Fabius. Oh, that was really bad. That was an awful joke, but I'm a little rusticus on my jokes. Oh man, that was really bad. I'm cringing at my own jokes. Google, I'm just gonna search. This should be a credible source because it's Oxford. Currently do not have access to this article. Boo. I'm just trying to learn some truths. So, I'm gonna check out, see what this says. I'm trying not to have a source cited by Tacitus, so I'm not going to use this one. By the same source. See here, it says this is Smith's Dictionary of Greek and Roman Biography and Mythology. That's what I was using for the other one. That's right. If you're just joining, you might have not seen it. But for the other guy, that's what it said. By the same source, the other guy was a Roman historian. Neither one are Jews. This guy was saying that the Roman historian Tacitus wrote from Jews. Like the person I'm responding to. I'm responding to someone on my phone. So, now I'm quoting the part that he wrote on Jesus. Are you free now? What do you mean by free now? I'm going to be pulling up the video after I go to this. My script for the Did Jesus Exist video 3. And I'm quoting the part from Tacitus's book, which it was pretty sure he wrote something kind of with a very funny name. Anyways, this is I'm just quoting this to show that what this guy was writing about was on Jesus Christ. Christus from whom the name had its origin, suffered the extreme penalty during the reign of Tiberius. Oh wait, I thought it was a Nero. My bad, I should probably adjust that. So, I gotta look up the other one. That was my bad. I didn't know how to do much coding. Yeah, modding is a lot easier here. The part that pertains to Jesus was was Nonius. I'm trying to see if there was a source. Okay, let's see if there's another source. Pretty sure this one was the same one that wouldn't let me read it. It's very interesting researching stuff. And the nice thing about doing it like this is you guys can see what I'm reading. So they were historians. I'm just trying to see if they were Roman historians. Are you guys seeing anything that says that they were Roman historians? Where the Roman annalists in the longer. Okay, so there it is. There's the Roman part and includes the like this. These are all Roman people. So yeah. According to what's the title of this book? Marcus Nonius, the Roman or Greek? Well, it was Roman historian because it says right here, Roman annalists. So I'm just going to scroll up so I can get the book. A Roman historian, according to the historian Servilius Nonius, written by, or I should say published by, because that's what it says. Published by Franz Steiner. Hi, JCO! Welcome. JCO is someone who has a lot of my respect. Someone accused me of misinformation, so I'm typing a YouTube comment. And I'm quoting stuff. So anyways, we're going back to this so I can continue quoting to prove this person wrong. I was on JCO's live earlier. I was at work, so I couldn't stay for long, but it was really cool. So I left off with the reign of Tiberius at the hands of one of our procurators, Pontius Pilate, which is actually, or Pilatus, my bad, which is actually in scripture. And a most mischievous superstition. I love being a little silly when I read some of this. It helps make things a little more interesting. Oh, this was my script for Did Jesus Exist? Video 3. And a most mischievous superstition thus checked for the moment again broke out not only in Judea. I can't do the AEA. How do I make the AEA? Okay, I just typed out AEA. I can't get this part right here. That. I can't get that one. The first source of the evil, but even in Rome. I typed dome instead of Rome, so I corrected that. Where all things hideous and shameful from every heart of the world find their center and become popular. Accordingly, an arrest was first made of all who pleaded guilty. Then, upon their information, an immense multitude. If you guys want what I'm quoting, go to what Tacitus had written in Book 15, Chapter 44. This is in that. Was convicted not so much of the crime of firing in the city as of hatred against mankind. Mockery of every sort was added to their deaths, which also confirms like how a lot of apostles were brutally killed. Covered with the skins of beasts, torn by dogs and perished, or were nailed to crosses, or were doomed to the flames and burnt to serve as a nightly illumination, my bad. A nightly illumination when daylight had expired. Know of any other group named Christians that were heavily persecuted for following a man whose name is remarkably similar to Christ, that had an awful death handed by Pontius Pilatus. Or Pilatus. I'm going to do Pilatus. Okay, that's done. Welcome back, Jane. So, I'm going to go find YouTube. That will work out well because I have a community post with what I'm wanting to watch. I am so close to 2,000 subscribers. This was a video he commented under, and what I commented under. So we are going to watch this. I'm turning it up so I can hear. I like the music. Seeing the universe kind of freaks me out. Oh, the audio isn't playing to us. Thank you. I'll just restart it. I forgot, but I'm sharing a window, won't share the audio. Can you guys?
Disclaimer, this is not meant to be an attack on anyone's beliefs. I have nothing but respect for the Muslim community and the religion of Islam. Instead, I'm just expressing my thoughts and opinions. So I do not intend to insult anyone's beliefs, but just to discuss my views
This is
on
my second
Islamic
stream like
theology.
this. I'm still
All
learning.
right, I'm St. Jews. Let's get into it.
On Jesus, look for
The good news is, if you didn't hear it, then you probably didn't hear it through the microphone, which I was a little worried about. And I can't bear how people can hear me. It was just moving the whole time.
I spent most of my early teenage life in a pursuit for truth and purpose. I always contemplated the meaning of my life and the purpose of this universe. I used to be atheist when I was 15, but quickly I became theist when I realized that it is absurd for a universe that is as ordered and complex as ours to not come from an intelligent designer.
Is it really glitchy for you guys?
So I eventually believed in God, but I had a deistic view of
You guys
God.
can always watch
Basically, I
this
believe
on
God created the universe but does not interact with it. He's more like a guy just watching human history unfold. I started to see how God has actually been working in my life, protecting me, providing for me and my family. So I was convinced God works and interacts with our universe, and I wanted to follow him. Then a question was lingering in my mind: how? How do I follow God? So I got into a crossroads. I got into crossroads between Christianity or Islam, between Jesus or Muhammad. Who do I choose? In this video, I will explain why I chose Christianity over Islam, Jesus over Muhammad. The first thing that turned me off about Islam was the lack of the supernatural. For a religion that claims to have the prophecies of God, I'd expect a sign or at least a miracle. And by the way, I don't mean that the followers of Islam should be doing miracles. I'm talking about their founder, Muhammad. Muhammad doesn't perform much miracles or any supernatural sign that proves he truly is sent from God, which I find odd because God doesn't work like that. When God sends a prophet, he does signs and wonders through them. An example would be Moses, who splits the Red Seas, or Elijah, who raised a dead baby, and many more. See, if someone claims to be a prophet from God, I would expect them to have something supernatural about them. And I know Muslims will point to Muhammad splitting the moon in half, but to that, where's the evidence? Where are the eyewitnesses? I can also say I split the moon in half. Will that mean it's true? In contrast, the greatest sign or miracle that comes with Christianity is the resurrection of Jesus, and there's evidence to this, such as the empty tomb, eyewitnesses, and many more. And if you want more information, check this video that I just released. My point is, unlike Christianity, Islam does not have anything supernatural about it that convinces me that it is a religion from Almighty God. And the lack of miracles or evidence of miracles in Muhammad's life, that puts his claim to prophethood in question. And speaking of Muhammad's life, that goes to my second point.
Oh man, I'm just glitchy.
This
That
is
was
by
a lot of
far
yellow.
like the one thing that turned me away from Islam the most. It's surprising that I find most Muslims don't know much about Muhammad's life from a secular viewpoint. When I read about Muhammad's life, when I read about it, I was horrified and even disgusted with the amount of immorality that was found in a man who claimed to be a prophet of God. To put it into perspective, Muhammad believes the Torah is scripture. The Torah is basically the first 5 books of the Bible. We learn from these books about the nature of God and that God is holy and he expects his people to be holy. In Exodus, we have the 10 Commandments delivered to Moses. Holiness is a very important aspect to God. It's so important that God punished a generation for 40 years due to their unholiness. Holiness is very important. So when someone claims to be the final and true prophet of a holy God, I will expect that person to be an example of holiness. But that's not what I see with the Prophet Muhammad. The amount of immorality in this man's life honestly concerns me. And just to give you like a few examples. Firstly, Muhammad encouraged raiding caravans.
That is
Basically,
true. I did research.
extortion,
He was very
stealing.
violent.
And he condoned polygamous relationships, having over multiple partners and multiple wives. He even married his son's daughter's wife, something like that. He encouraged genocides to unbelievers, to Jews, and also to Christians. He had once ordered the beheading of 200 Jews. He was basically a warlord. But the straw that broke the camel's back was his marriage with a literal 6-year-old named Isa. The
That's also
prophet was
true.
around 50 years when he took this child bride. Just blatant pedophilia. It's pedophilia from a man who claims to be God's prophet. See, being a prophet is not just about speaking God's revelation, it's also reflecting his holiness. And that's what makes Christ a perfect prophet because he is God in the flesh. He is the image and the best representation of God's character. because he is God himself. Now, a lot of Muslims would argue that Muhammad's marriage to a child was a common practice during his time. But this argument is weak because 400 years ago, slavery was practiced. Does that make slavery good? Of course not. Even if 7th century people were marrying children, it doesn't make child marriage okay. That's called a bandwagon fallacy. Just because a majority of people practice something doesn't make it morally right. And the rampant immorality in Muhammad's life makes him a terrible example of a servant of a holy God, making him unfit to be a religious leader and also putting his claim of prophethood into question. This is, again, the final straw that broke the camel's back. I know I say this. That is the blatant failed prophecies of Muhammad. The Bible gives us a test on people who claim prophethood. In Deuteronomy, it says, if a person prophesies and it doesn't come true, this is not the word that God, the Lord, has spoken, and that prophet is false, and we must not fear him. Now, we have that. Let me show you the failed prophecy of Muhammad. Muhammad prophesied on the appearance of the Antichrist, or I hope I pronounce it correct, the Dajjal, and at the end, and also the end of the world. To quote a hadith, I'm a paraphrase, it's narrated by.
So the thing I've noticed that this person said compared to what scripture said is he was saying that if a prophecy has a failed word, he is not a prophet of God. But what the scripture he cited said was if a prophecy fails, then that specific prophecy was not from God. So that is something I noticed.
Abdullah Ibn Bur, my pronunciation is bad. The prophet said the time between the Great War and the conquest of the city will be 6 years, and the Dajjal will come forth in the 7th. Others say that it will come in after 7 months. The city Muhammad spoke of was Constantinople, and Constantinople was taken over by Muslims in May 1453 AD. The Antichrist was due to appear at the 7th month, according to Muhammad, which is the end of the world. That would be by November 1453, hence the end of the world. Well, it's 2024, and millions of Muslims are still waiting for the Dajjal. This was clearly a false prophecy. Muhammad said that the Antichrist will come at the 7th month, but being 2024, so meaning Muhammad did not receive this revelation from God, but his own imagination. So according to the test of the prophet, that would make him a false prophet. Now, in comparison, in contrast, let's look at Christ. In the Gospel of Mark, scholars have argued and have agreed that it dates back to around 55 AD to 65 AD. Some, well, most people would say maybe 70 AD, but it has been proven generally. I'll link a video to Iteration Philosophy that the Gospel of Mark can roughly date back to 55 to 65 AD. Now, in Mark chapter 13 at verse 1, Jesus foretells the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem. And he says here, and as he came out of the temple, one of his disciples said to him, look, teacher, what wonderful stones and what wonderful buildings. And Jesus said to him, do you see these great buildings? There will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down. Now, the same prophecy is given in Matthew chapter 20, around chapter 23. So here Jesus says, not one stone will be left upon each other. So he doesn't just predict the destruction of the temple, but he predicts how it's going to be destroyed. And this was written around 65 AD to 55 AD. And if you know your history, the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem happened in 70 AD. And when you visit Israel, when you visit Jerusalem, how the temple was destroyed, it's exactly how Christ said it would be. There is no single stone on top of the other. It's like every single stone was thrown over, and it is destroyed. And you can go check it, right? You can go check it today. There's archaeological evidence of this prophecy coming true. So that will make Christ.
So JCO Journey said, I think the Gospels were written early. I think the only reason I heard scholars say it was written after 70 AD was they believed Jesus couldn't accurately predict the temple destruction. I will have to fact check that, which I will do that while you guys are watching this.
Passing the test of prophecy. Now, obviously, there are many more reasons why I chose Christianity over Islam or Jesus over Muhammad. These were just the main ones. But there are many more reasons that I've yet to mention. And maybe I'll make a part 2. So if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. If you have a few points, feel free to comment below. Let's keep it respectful. I'm not out here to attack anybody. Let's just discuss beliefs, theology, and philosophy. So like if you enjoy videos like these, subscribe, and we will not be posting more in the future. I'm Saints Jews. Thank you for watching. Out.
There we go. So, according to the AI response, I can share my screen with you guys. There we go. This is what they had said. But from what I'm seeing, it's like speculation. It's a belief, which I hope a huge number of atheists won't come after me like they did JCO. If you don't know, JCO had a lot of people who disagreed with his perspective on things, and there was somebody who even made a video about it. And JCO handled himself very well, which is why he has such a huge respect for me. Or from me. This does make sense. Like this highlight right here. Can you guys read it, or is it too tiny and you need me to read it out loud? Or I can make it bigger. There we go. Critical scholars widely agree that Orlo's Kafalu. To begin with, none of the Gospels appear to have been members of the blog. That would make sense. I'm reading the comments on this. I'm actually kind of curious as to this point. So I'm going to pull it up on my phone Matthew 24:29-31. I use the Bible app for this. I do have a couple physical Bibles, but this is going to be interesting. So, it says, immediately after the tribulation of those days. Of which days? Reading the context. False Christ will appear. The days will not come short. There will be tribulation. I'm not seeing anything that says that will be right after the fall of Jerusalem. Okay. It says in verse 15, so when you see the abomination of the desolation spoken of by the prophet Daniel, I'm going to search up what that says. I'm just sharing the tab so you guys can see the tab. But what was the abomination of desolation spoken by prophet Daniel? Go on to godquestions.org. It is a Christian site. It's as he referenced a future event mentioned in Daniel 9:27, which says, "And he shall make a strong covenant with many for 1 week, and for half of the week he shall put an end to sacrifice and offering, and on the wing of abomination shall come the one who makes desolate. The decreed end is poured out on the desolator." I'm not seeing anything that says that this was the fall of Jerusalem. So, could JCO, you still here? Could you verify this for yourself? If not, that's okay. I also know there's like a slight delay from when I speak to the chat. Bard states 1. Paul didn't write about the Gospels. 2. Jesus couldn't predict the temple accurately. Could you repeat what is reading the account? Do you want me to read the Matthew 24 passage? Is that what you're wanting me to read? Which you guys can see for yourself. I'm gonna click more, see if that'll. Yeah, okay. I could always just share my screen, but it'll be kind of trippy for you guys to see the chat. Or I could my web browser. Window. Why date the gospel sooner? There you guys go. So you guys can see for yourself. I'm gonna use this. BibleGateway.com. And the passage was Matthew 24. Which is right here. And what I'm seeing is of those days right here. To which I'm like, what are of those days? Like, what is the tribulation? And we're gonna wait. And I found it. So the tribulation occurs after this. This is a whole part of the tribulation. So then I was like, what is the prophet Daniel talking about? So I went to here. God questions. 9:27. That's what this says. And we could watch the video, but I know it will be pretty laggy. Okay, here's more on the abomination of desolation. I love researching this stuff, you guys. Do you guys need me to zoom in at all? Or can you read it okay? Because I can make it a little bigger. So it looks like regular sacrifice is abolished. That passage I personally wanted to take my time on because I think there's a lot happening with prophecy and the dates of the gospel. Yeah, there is a lot going on there. But what I'm seeing is that what this person was claiming, it would be right after the fall of Jerusalem. But I'm not seeing anything that states it's Jerusalem, the fall of Jerusalem. Does that make sense? So the passage, were you wanting that Matthew 24 passage? I will make it just a tiny bit bigger. Like, that's the one thing I find to be a challenge is when people say something says something when it doesn't say that. So I'm going to continue reading this. Oh, these are all things that are saying the Gospels were written earlier. That's what these points are. But either way, so this first point isn't a point, but the second point. An early date. Hi. I love doing research. Research is so fun to me. I am curious if the one person that was debating with me earlier responded. No. Quick to list up a bunch of stuff, but then wouldn't do it. Even if once got the end times wrong, they had to admit they accurately predicted the temple destruction. But Bart seems to brush it off. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing. That's a good point, JCO. So I'm going to go back and see what other people have to say. Let's read what this says. And this is how I researched too. This is by the Islam versus Christianity debate part 1, which is 2 hours long, was taking me a lot longer to take my notes on because it's a little harder to do it when I'm on my phone because my battery dies really fast. But with this, I can go more thorough with it. Whew. What are your thoughts on the points here, JCO? Can I scroll up like this or like that? Oh, who wrote this? Dawson Jones. I'm going to pull this. So this is like a criticizer of Christianity from what I'm seeing. I gotta say, some of these memes, these mocking memes can be a little funny. Like, I can find humor in it. Because he insists that they were ... and I can't click on more. Oh, wow. Do you see anything you want to look at, JCO? Or do you want to go back to that other one I was looking in? That's this one. I don't see that person, but look his reasons. Yeah, from what I see, it's also... I'm going to continue reading. It's not an exact science. Okay. He debunked his own point. I'm kidding. We do possess the tools and method that will allow us to bring forth or bring into focus a workable date range. I like the thing. I'm gonna highlight it once I pour my drink. My non-caffeinated drink, so I'm not hyper and tired and crazy later. But this part right here. Evidence drives to conclusions, not the other way around. And that is exactly why I believe in Christianity, because the evidence says so. Yeah. Are you researching this on your computer too, JCO? It's honestly, it reminds me a lot of how one of the people you debated was like, atheism means lack of belief because that's what some people use in like the uneducated communities or something like that. It reminds me a lot like that. I don't know. It could just be I'm tired and have a work brain. Was back and forth on this page? No. Namely, the upper limit and the lower limit. The upper limit is the date after which a text could not have been written. The lower limit is the date before which a text could not have been written. To establish a practical date range, scholars need to look at internal evidence, the content within the text itself, as well as external sources. So that would go to what you were saying earlier, that a lot of people are like, it was written later because of the prophecy. Like, that would be a statement in support of your point. Yeah. It felt like they weren't listening to the point you were trying to say. They were just wanting to tell you that you were wrong, and then they didn't bring in any significant point. I remember one of, I forget the name, Steve's call, I went on there, and I had asked those people, what are the reasons that you feel your definition should be the one that you use? And they didn't really bring in any points. I don't know if it was just because everyone was tired or something like that. But were you there for that discussion, JCO? Because I thought that was really interesting. You'd think for having a discussion and them telling Steve that Steve was wrong, that they would have an answer to why they feel that their point was correct. I think majority agree with the belief in no God definition. And when I was watching your live, the part of it, I was watching the part where the guy that made the video in response to yours was saying that, like, per definition of atheism means a lack of belief in a God. Theism can mean a lack of belief in no God. I think he either unintentionally or intentionally left out the part that was someone can be an atheist and a theist per that definition, which is why we were having that discussion in the first place. And that was like your whole video, and people were like in the comments, you're wrong, but I didn't watch the video, but you're wrong. I just know you're wrong. Not a great way to debate. But then there were a couple that did bring in some points, but then they wouldn't respond to your points. Or they would just like reject it altogether. Yeah. So what this is saying is when something was written about something else, that's when it would be placed. Which, while there is a point for that, they are forgetting that one of the claims in the Bible is prophecies. So I feel like that can't dismiss the earlier writings as a thing. So I'm going to read this. So it was necessarily composed after 33 CE. That makes sense. Make the Gospels explicit reference to the Roman-Jewish War 66-73. The complete destruction of the Jerusalem temple. What a surprise. That's just kind of read that. Like, I'm just reading this one part I'm going to scroll up so you can read it too. But it says, nevertheless, those who espouse lest these prophecies attributed to Jesus be rendered as prophecies after the facts. But then we see that these were written after such time, right here, which is a point that that people are trying to make. It's a prophecy attributed to Jesus, and then you're like, oh, because it talks about it, it doesn't necessarily state the Roman-Jewish War of 66 CE. It just says Jerusalem's temple is going to be destroyed in a very specific manner. And this guy admitted that that was accurate. But then he's using that as a reason to say that it was formed later. So that proves your point, JCO, that it was, I'm scrolling up in the chat. I think the Gospels written early. I think the only reason I heard scholars say it was written after 70 AD was they believed that Jesus couldn't accurately predict the temple's destruction. And that is exactly what we're seeing here. I'm going to continue reading because he might address it later on. We have to be consistent in our methodology when we do so. I agree with that. I will say there is a case for saying that the Gospels were written during those times, but I feel like saying that that's that and that the prophecy talking about the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem makes it so it was written at that time is a faulty point. I would like to see a scholarly poll on how many of them believe prophecy is real. I would think that would be a marvelous thing. Maybe I'll do a short live feed and ask people that way. Oh, special pleading. We're going to read this. For instance, the writings of ancient figures such as Pindar, Herodotus, all these people include purported prophecies from notable predecessors, and these prophecies often correspond to actual events. Yet, upon basic evaluation, scholars universally recognize that these are actually prophecies post-eventum. Given that the Gospels must have been composed after 33 CE, there's no evidence proving that these texts were composed before 67 to 70 CE. Then the potential window for the composition of the Gospels include mid to late 1st century CE, which overlaps with the timeline of the Roman Jewish war and temple destruction. In other words, so he's saying because this is a possible point, that means it is. Like if I'm reading this. In other words, like the aforementioned Greco-Roman writings, the Gospels were composed appreciably contemporary to or after the events that have been said to predict. If we are being academically honest and methodologically consistent in our approach to examining ancient literature and biblical history, that we are compelled to examine such matters in accordance with the same methods and pursuant to the same standards that are employed in our exploration of other historical matter from antiquity. To do so otherwise is to succumb to the fallacy of special pleading. So, this says, upon basic evaluation, I want to know why they think that. Like, why do they think that's the case? Because if we're being academically honest and methodologically, honest, we would have to compare the specific processes to those texts and see why they came to that conclusion and apply the same thing to these texts. So, do you guys want to look at that, or would you want to keep reading this? I'm good either way. We can continue reading why he thinks the when like what he thinks when the Gospels were written on all that. This is interesting. I love looking at what the opposing side has to say. But I do think he said that he considers himself to be a fair and reasonable person. He's gonna set aside the matter of the Jerusalem temple destruction. He will not factor it in as evidence one way or the other. So now we're going to go to the other evidence. The historical radar yeah. I do appreciate how he was like, we're not going to factor this in one way or the other because it's inconclusive. I do think there's points for both things. I might research it if I remember to research the methodology for the other ones. So, upon examining the record, we find that the four Gospels do not receive mention or attestation. Yeah. I don't know how long I'm going to stay on either. Probably till 9:30 so I can get to bed at a decent time. The conspicuous silence that has long been acknowledged by secular and Christian scholars going as far as back to the 17th century. Theology, Dr. Henry Dodwin, who wrote, "We have at this stage certain most authentic and classic..." Well, I cannot speak. But guys can read this for yourself. This part is what he said. Hi, Lucas, for researching. So the Gospels had already been written, circulated, and known in the Christian community as early as the 40s to 50s CE. We are led to ponder for the earliest Christian sources. Display absolutely no awareness of the evangelist Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. This is interesting. Any number of conspicuous answers that these early Christian writers could not cite or mention texts that had not yet been written, or were in the process of being written and newly circulated. That is an interesting point there. What are your thoughts on that, JCO? Can I tell some more jokes? I mean, you can, but JCO and I are studying. We're being nerds, and that's okay. I love being nerdy. You're welcome to stay and learn with us and have a discussion. JCO, we should go live together sometime so that we could have a discussion. We could research something random and then we could just discuss it. That would be interesting. So, I think I like how this person acknowledged that there's any number of explanations that could occur. I think you're eating anyways, so that's alright. What are you eating? Anyways, I keep getting distracted. This part, I think this right here is accurate because you also have to remember it's Rome. So I think that is accurate, but this is an added piece that's furthering the explanation to go for a specific message. So that's what I'm noticing with this. Do you agree with that, JCO? I love studying stuff. It's going to be really hard to figure out when we can figure out a time because I work and I go to school and I have homework and a lot of practicing to do. But we'll figure something out. I'm going to just go let you study. You're welcome to stay and learn about random things. But if not, that's okay. I won't force you to stay and study. Never mind, I am going to force you to stay and study. You will have to study every little bit and make your brain hurt from it all. And you can't do nothing about. I'm kidding. I'm going to continue reading on. Unless JCO has something that he wants to contribute right now. Your brain is fried? I get that. My brain has been fried for most of this. I just had the method of researching implanted into me. Can you post the link? I can. I'll put it in the chat, then you could link it. What if we just made this a joint video where we can read it together, give our thoughts, do some research? That would be fun. And for the other person who's watching, I want to share a little bit about how I found JCO's channel. I was looking into Bible contradictions, and there was a topic of slavery that came up. And so I was looking onto YouTube for it, and it just so happens that there's this small channel that had like 30 subscribers, or not even. It was a very small channel. And when I watched the video, it was a lot of common sense. There was a lot that made sense, and there was a lot that was quoted and cited, and you could see the case that JCO was making, which is a lot different than some other things, which is just like random stuff and trust me, bro. And I've seen that from all sides. So the fact I found someone who actually showed the research, I found that to be really interesting. And it helped me out in learning about Bible contradictions. You're going to make some popcorn? I love popcorn. So that's how I found JCO's channel, and I think he is severely underrated and has so much potential. And unless you turn into like a weird bad guy, I'm going to support you, JCO, because I support the truth and an honest discussion. So. And I think it was God putting the small channel video. Like, I was watching like the main channel stuff at that time, but it was just a small channel video that gave me exactly the answer I needed, and it turns out to be someone who is worthy of a lot of respect. I mean, everybody should get respect anyways, but he won't force you to think like him. And he researches a lot and goes to the smart stuff rather than the dumb stuff. And is open to debates. So you're studying also? That's really cool. Studying's good for you. As long as your brain doesn't overload and you can't think straight. Like, I can't think straight right now. I am actually wanting to find something. I'm going to stop sharing screen real quick. And I'm going to find something. So, JCO, you know how I mentioned I was in a speech and debate club? I want to show my speech and debate case. I'm going to the first year that I did it, so it might look a little rough. Oh, these are my evidence stuff. So this was how I researched when I was in speech and debate. And I would get evidence upon evidence upon evidence upon evidence upon evidence for a debate case that I did for high school. And that year, what I was researching on was how to substantially raise the percentage of income from indirect taxation. So that was quite a doozy going into speech and debate for my first year. And I'm going to show you the speech that I made. I don't know how many times. This is very interesting. So, resolved was the resolution that we were debating on. This was 5 years ago. And we included 2 dictionary definitions. And it's all so fascinating. I don't remember most of this, but it's very interesting. We would give a harm, like what was wrong in society, in the plan, which included mandates and explaining what it is. We would have to include the agencies that supported it, how it would be funded. Normal means is like how it's typically funded. Enforcement, normal means how it's typically done. And then the addendum, which says that we can clarify and expand upon this case as necessary. Advantages, there wouldn't be as many teenagers consuming products. And then we would quote it. We would quote more and more. And then the conclusion, by raising taxes by 30% will make our economy a better place to live. This was a very rough case. Then we included more. That should give you a gist of how I researched and how I was taught to research. I go very deep on it. You should work at church. That would be really nice if I had a nice church to work at. I know churches I can volunteer at. I know one I'm in full support of, so I'm good with volunteering. But if you're talking about being a pastor, I'm not comfortable doing that because the Bible speaks against women pastors within the church. Like it's a little different on a YouTube channel because it's not preaching in a building to multiple people. So I'm not comfortable being a pastor at a church. Anyways, I think we're done studying if you want to share some jokes, Lucas. I'm going to see if I got any more emails. You're probably out. Take care. Thank you, JCO, for joining today. It was wonderful to bounce ideas and talk to you for a bit. And we'll figure out how to do a collab so we can be nerds and have fun with doing it. That would be really cool. So, I think everybody else is gone. Thank you for everyone who tuned in, and I will see everybody next time. Bye!